Hello bass family, and welcome to Everything Bass. So got some more questions that I'm trying to answer and give full attention to, but I had some of your bass family members have asked about if there are any tricks to memorizing the key signatures, memorizing the circle of fourths, circle of fifths. For one reason or the other, they're struggling with it, and I could relate. I can relate because I never really learned the key signatures until I went to Musicians Institute. And here, because I was fortunate enough to place high in the class, honestly, full disclosure, way higher than I deserved to be. I could do a lot of techniques, slapping and tapping, chord playing, and this is in the mid 80s. But I didn't have a foundation in theory, and so I show up first day of class, and I'm in the top group of bass players, and they all knew their key signatures. The instructor's throwing stuff out really quickly, going through, and he kept saying, bless his heart, he kept saying like, so you all understand the keys, and then everybody like, and I'd be like, no, okay, and I was terrible. So I realized I had to get that down. And I remember one of the open counselings, Steve Bailey told me, yeah, man, if you get the keys down, you're going to understand that difficult things will become simpler. Impossible things will become possible. And that stuck in my brain. That this one thing, understanding what notes are in each key and a way to memorize them would really set me up for success. And it was just time I had to do it. So I started looking at first the circle of fifths. Now we call it circle of fifths, also known as the sharp keys in major sharp keys, because the root movement of the order of the key signatures move in fifths, and I'll talk about that in a second. But when I started looking at it, my first question was, why are they called circle of fifths? And I started realizing, okay, it's because from C, which has no sharps and flats, to G, which has one sharp, that's up a fifth, and then G to D, D has two sharps, that's up a fifth. And then I started looking at the way our bass is made, and this is my first tip for you helping to memorize the keys and what's in how many sharps are in each key. First of all, if you start on a standard 4-string bass, but you can use 5, 6, doesn't matter, whatever you know the fingerboard well on, and you play a C, and you go to the fifth below, which is G. Now C has no sharps and flats. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. You play a major scale from the root of the key you're looking at, and it'll tell you what notes are in it. But if you go from C to G, and we look G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, we now have a sharp there. We have one sharp. So that's what's the difference between the key of C major and the key of G major. The key of G major has one sharp. But if we go G up a fifth to D, now we've got the D major scale, and that has two sharps. That has a C sharp and an F sharp. We go from D, I'm kind of hurrying along because I don't want this video to be like 30 minutes long. But if we go from D down a fifth to A, now we have three sharps. We have A up a fifth to B, to F, I'm sorry, E, we have four sharps. E down to B, we have five sharps. B up to F sharp, we have the six sharps. Now I could go to C sharp, that's where every note's sharped. Primarily, I haven't found a lot of, like when I studied at Musicians Institute, we didn't really deal with C sharp a lot. So I'm going to leave it off this exercise. So here's what we do. This pattern. And there, if you want to do C sharp, that tells you the order of the keys. How cool is that? Our bass is like, and even if you don't have your bass with you, you can visualize C, G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, C sharp. You can actually visualize that movement, and that will tell you the order of the sharps. Like, what key has, if someone says, hey, what key signature has three sharps? You can go, C has none, G has one, D has two, A has three. A. So sometimes using the fingerboard as a resource, someone just rang my doorbell. No, it's okay. It's okay. Someone's just delivering a package. If they ring the doorbell twice, you know what? Staying right here. I want to show you the sign. Well, no. Yeah, it was a delivery guy. I can hear the truck blowing away. I'm going to get off on a tangent. I will be moving the studio to another part of the house, which this will not happen anymore. But let's get back on track. So the neck does tell you, visualizing the neck does tell you the order of the sharps. But let's talk about a way for you to memorize what notes are sharp. One is a simple thing, and I want to, you know my whole process. Don't take the entire concept you're trying to learn at once. Take a little bit. So knowing that C has no sharps and flats, playing the C major scale, say the notes as you play the scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now going to G and playing the G major scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. That will tell you, okay, G, the key of G major has one sharp, it's F. Now let's go up to D. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Now you notice I said F sharp and C sharp. Those things will help you, but don't do all of them in one sitting. Just take a couple, and until you can memorize that G has one, it's F. D has two, F sharp, C sharp, and just kind of do that much. That's a great amount. That's awesome. That does great. When you try to do more, you're going to do that concept I've talked about frequently in my videos called dilution. It becomes diluted. You start confusing which keys have which sharps and flats. So just do that. Just do that much, and then add a new one. Add A the next day. Then practice those. Now, when you get through that, how many days it takes, and where you've kind of got a process, you can visualize your fingerboard. Make some flashcards. I think it's brilliant to make flashcards. And that is on one side, and I'm going to give you two options. If you're a sight reading bassist, when you're trying to learn to the keys as they show up on the music staff, on one side, write a short music staff with the beginning, with the bass clef, maybe a time series, doesn't matter. But put in one sharp on the F line, you know that's the key of G. On the other side, write G major, F is sharped. Do that for all the sharp keys. And then before you go to bed, man, and this is how by the way, this is the one thing I did do after realizing how the bass neck can help me memorize it. I made flashcards, and every night after school I would go home, and right before I go to bed I'd go through. Now when I got a card right the first time, I would just take it out of the deck, and I was doing both sharps and flat keys. We're going to do another separate video about the flat keys later, but I was doing sharp keys, and anytime I would get it right, I'd take it out. So the deck was left at the end with the ones I didn't get right the first time, so I could focus on those. Then I would run through those, get those, and then before I go to bed, I put all the deck together, see if I could get them in one hit without making any mistakes. I think I only had to do that twice, 2 days. I kept doing it just to keep it fresh, but after 2 days, I wasn't having to take any cards out. So I encourage you, flashcards are great. Now that's if you're a sight reading bassist. On one side, show the treble or the bass clef with the key signature in it. If you're not, then I would just say right on one side G major, and on the other side say one sharp F. And then so when you look at the card and you see E major, you go, oh, okay. And the other side, you'd say all the keys listed out. Now I want to give you another little realization that came to me because I would be in classes or in between classes, and I would take scratch paper and I would draw a grid. And I wanted to see what visually I could learn if I wrote out all the keys. Now I created this grid, and it's going to be uploaded on my Patreon page. So if you go to the description, go to of this video, you'll find a link to my Patreon account. If you become a Backstage Pass member, which at the time of shooting the video is only $8 a month, and you'll actually get access to all my posts. There's over 150 posts now, I believe, with most of them, 90% of them have downloadable content, sheet music, charts, tablature, wave files for play along files. But in this case, you'll see this chart that I made up. And what I want you to realize, so on the horizontal, it was like an Excel spreadsheet. On the horizontal cells, I put out the key of C, and I put C, D, E, F, G, and I put the number. So number 1, the first note of that key, the first step in that key is C, and then set it all up to 7, which is the last note, B. Then I did G, because that has one sharp, and I went in, and sure enough, F sharp was on the 7th step. And the very first time I did this, I didn't come to this realization, but all the new sharps come in on the 7th step. So if you're dealing with the key of E, you know right away that D is going to be sharped, because it's the 7th step of the E major scale, and D is sharped. And so there's a pattern, by the way, that's beautiful. There's this beautiful symmetry to music when you can look at it like this. One is, once a sharp comes in, like once we sharp F on G, all the subsequent keys F is sharped. So that's a constant. So once you know F sharp is in, you know F sharp's in all the other keys. Doesn't that make it simpler? Similar, we go to D, and we know that F sharp and C sharp are in. Once we know F sharp, C sharp are in, keys A, E, B, F sharp, they all include those two. And you'll find that it's not so daunting. Just realizing that the new sharp is always coming in on the 7th step. And there's actually, I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you look at the chart that's there, or make your own, you don't have to come to Patreon, but you can make your own, you'll see that once a note enters, once a new sharp comes in on the 7th step, where it goes. And I don't want to give it away, but it goes to a certain spot in the next key. And once you start realizing that, you start seeing how all this information is interrelated and makes it easier to memorize. Now I want to end with one last tip for you to actually be able to hopefully memorize the sharp keys. In this process, in the first week of school, where I realized I had this huge chasm of gap in my knowledge, and I was so upset with myself that it's something so simple. I came to a music school not knowing my keys. I was embarrassed, and I was going to work it out. And I was trying to think of all the different ways I could memorize it. And I started realizing when I was writing down the keys that, and this, hold me, this is almost a perfect concept, and I'll show you what I mean. But when you write the letter G, it's one pen stroke. You don't have to lift your pen from the paper. G. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. That's one pen stroke, makes a G, and that's one sharp. And I started thinking, I wonder if that carries over. D, I make the vertical line. That's two pen strokes. It has two sharps. Oh, baby. I started thinking, I'm onto something. I started thinking, this is going to be great. I could license this. I can make $1 million. I can have a house. A, 1, 2, 3. The key of A has 3 sharps, 3 pen strokes. Oh, yes, yes. Does it hold to E? Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. E has 4 pen strokes, has 4 sharps. Oh my gosh, I got to the tricky B. Luckily, there was a Greek restaurant nearby where I lived in Hollywood, and they do their B's like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Their logo had real pointy B's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A Greek B has 5 strokes, 5 sharps. It's great. And then I hit F sharp. And no matter how I tried to like bend it or warp it, I couldn't get F sharp to work with 6 pen strokes. But I got you most of the way there. Hopefully that helps. Isn't that weird though, man? I was so desperate to find so many ways to memorize that I thought, oh, this is brilliant. And it fell apart on the F sharp, my least favorite major key. Okay, enough of that. I hope this video helps. Learning the keys is something you can do away from your instrument. A lot of people do ask, hey, what can I practice when I can't have my bass? Well, how can I become a better bass player when my bass is in my hand? I work a manual labor job. I work a lot of jobs that I can't have my bass. Thinking about one guy in particular, he's a construction worker. He's like, I can't take my bass to the site. It's not safe. What can I do? I'm like, here's some things you could do. And one was running through and memorizing key signatures using these devices that I've taught you. Did I miss any? How did you learn the keys? If you already know the keys, please be involved. Share concepts. I would love it. It'd make me a better teacher, make me a better player if I had new ways to memorize just the sharp keys. Look for a follow-up video on the flat keys coming very shortly. But I'm excited about this. I'm excited about sharing these things that can make you a better bass player, and they're just really small things when you look at it. It just takes a little bit of attention, a little bit of focus. You'll get it, and it'll be with you the rest of your life. All right, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon. It just would mean so much to me if you guys would do that. It means so much to me to grow this family, get more interactions. It would just be the greatest thing. So please take a moment and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. If it filled in a gap in your knowledge, if it's getting you fired up to learn this thing, please throw down a like. That really helps in the world of YouTube. And I will see you at the next video.